once again, and welcome to another Doctor on Call. It's Tuesday evening, and of course, usually at that time, we discuss medical issues or health issues. I think that's more in place. Health issues, issues that can help you to improve your wellness, to live a little longer, and to enjoy life some more. Dr. Nixon is here with me as usual, and of course we'll have a lively discussion as always. We welcome you, our viewers on GBN Television 7 and 11, our listeners on K105 FM, our friends on our YouTube channel, and on our GBN Live Facebook page. All right, we're happy to have you, and so we're looking forward to engaging you throughout the next hour and a half. All right, Dr. Nixon, good evening, and it is always a pleasure to be in your company. How are you? How was the weekend?
Oh, I like that. Always a pleasure to be in my company.
Oh, yes.
The weekend, what happened? I don't remember what happened this weekend. It was just hot. It was hot, and I went into Grand Anse on Sunday to see a patient, and after the rain, and I didn't realize how much work was going on the road. Yeah. But I'm going to ask you to be tolerant of the works, and to understand that it is important that this happens now for progress. Progress is always painful. Okay? Development is always painful. We have to make sacrifices. We have to give up some things, and sometimes we get things that we don't really want for ourselves. The inconvenience of driving into a place where there is normally such a large traffic load. Mm-hmm. So please be patient, and above all, be careful driving on the road. Because I see some crazy driving on Sunday, and I wonder why.
Yeah, it's
don't we have Sunday drivers anymore?
It's worrying. It's worrying. The things people do. Late last week, it could have been Thursday or Friday afternoon. I was coming up, and on the Kirani James Boulevard. So I was right in front of the Bryden's building in the traffic, a line of traffic all the way back from like Victory Bar, coming all the way up to Otways. And then there's this bus driver from Grand Anse who decides that he wants to go, so comes out of the traffic and he's driving up and trying, and then there's vehicles coming down, so he got to a point where he had to stop because there was nowhere else he could have gone. And you ask yourself, well, is that really necessary? Is it necessary? And what bothers me most is that there are people on the bus and they would say absolutely nothing. And I don't understand it. I really don't understand it, and from time to time, I see the president of the bus association on television and making plea and all of this. The last time I heard, he was asking for some kind of thing regarding bus drivers, giving them whatever. But I have never heard him address the issues of the bus drivers and the way they behave. They block you, and it's just it puzzles me. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But I wish passengers. They don't understand it either. I wish passengers would not condone that kind of thing and insist that they drive safely, and avoid putting them in danger. So that being said, Doc, we started a conversation last week, looking at how people can, protect themselves, premature death and all of that. And so this evening we have to continue, because I think it is very important that we understand how we can do that. So yes, we can speak about protecting ourselves and all of that, but how do we do that? Where do we start? And I think this is where we need to take this conversation. And if we're going to start about preventing premature death or early death, however you want to call it, I think as folks say, we have to start from the start.
So it's the 60th anniversary of Sound of Music, right?
Ah.
So let's start from the very beginning.
Yes.
It's a very good place to start.
Yeah, we start
when
from the start.
When you begin with A, B, C, okay?
Mm-hmm.
We have to start from the beginning, and the beginning is conception.
That's right.
But then when a baby is conceived, it's conceived in the womb of somebody who themselves have been conceived. So we have to remember that it's a cycle, it's a life cycle. And every cycle of life that precedes an individual must be healthy. So you want a mother, we're going to have Johnny, but you want Johnny's mother to have not been drinking, smoking, having irresponsible sexual behavior, so she get STDs, etc. You want Johnny to be conceived in a womb that's healthy, in a person who is free from disease, or even they're free from disease, that the diseases are under control, because people have diseases. You know, you have asthma, yes. You have seizures, and you have sickle cell trait preferably. You have a lot of things that go on, right? You might be anemic, but you want to make sure that those things are under control. So if a young girl, a young woman has like something like an anemia, she should treat herself. They also ask us to, like, you're going to have a baby, you need to plan your babies. So you take folic acid or folate, which is even better, a folate compound to help to ensure that the baby's brain, which is the first thing that is formed, okay, that the baby's brain is healthy. And a pregnancy should be free of stress more than anything else, okay? We have to help a woman to be free of stress when they're pregnant. They must be comfortable. They must have good nutrition. They must have family support. And oftentimes, especially when we have young people, and we'll talk about it again, that is not really what happens. There's so much stress when you have a teenage mother, and the instability and poverty and other things that may exist. Okay? Loss of opportunity because a young woman gets pregnant. Talk about that after. So let's say Johnny's mother is a healthy woman. She eats well. She goes to antenatal clinic, and we ask mothers to go to the doctor when you're 6, when you just miss your first period. 6 weeks, good time. Capturing a pregnancy at that point gives the best outcome. And you don't have to go to a private doctor. You can go to your health center. The nurses, the midwives are very well trained to take care of a pregnancy. And pregnancy is not an illness, but it's a condition that may come with complications. Okay, you may develop diabetes, you may develop hypertension, you may have reason or high blood pressure. You may have situations where the baby fails to thrive. You may have a pregnancy in a tube, but we're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about healthy pregnancies. And you may have a baby that doesn't grow as well as it has to grow. And especially if the mother has hypertension and diabetes. Especially if you have a woman who might have had a few fibroids. There are challenges. But those things won't happen. Let's say it's not happening in Johnny's mother. And a time comes, she goes to a clinic every month for the first several months. At the end, she goes every 2 weeks, and then every week once she gets to 36 weeks. And we want Johnny to be born in a hospital, right? There's nowhere that's too far from a hospital anywhere in Grenada. So a mother must prepare herself. She must have eaten, use her vitamins and eaten properly. No drinking, no smoking, no going over party and have your belly out the door. You know, make your pregnancy healthy and wholesome. And then when Johnny's born, he's born in an appropriate health facilities that has all the facilities, all the amenities should you have a crisis. So the baby not be able to come. You can have a C-section, whatever it is. But we want the mother to get into hospital, walk in, have a baby, and walk back forward the next day. That can happen. Okay? A nice, healthy baby. And here's this child. Where are you taking him? Where do you think we should take him? Godfrey. Where would you like Johnny to be taken when his mother goes home? What kind of facilities do you think Johnny would make Johnny the healthiest baby? And we've talked about this before, but I think it's never too late to remind a patient. Where would you want your baby to go?
I mean, I missed that day.
So, I've just given birth to Johnny.
Right.
Where should I go as a mother? As a mother, I go home. What amenities should I have at home?
You should have at least first and foremost a clean Environment. Very clean environment, because of course babies are, they're susceptible than the adults. So you need a clean environment that is also comfortable, so the baby and the mother can be relaxed. You need an excellent support system, so that if for some reason the mother needs assistance, it is readily available.
And she doesn't have to suffer depression.
Right, definitely. At least running water, good food, facilities,
electricity, bathroom facilities, close to amenities. You don't have to live on the roadside, but you can have a yard where you can go walk the baby. You're not sleeping with a whole lot of other people in the room. Nobody's smoking. You're not cooking inside with a cold pot or fireside. So this baby has to inhale particle dust, right? While he's breathing. Okay? You don't want him to be with his grandmother who smoke a pipe, or who has a cold, or somebody who has, whatever they may have. You want your baby to be in a very healthy environment. There mustn't be fighting and noise, and there must be harmony, so this child's emotional state can be brought up. And we know that children can have trauma from very, very young, even if they don't remember. We know that children who are molested sexually, even at 3 months, have similar manifestations to children who were molested later in life, who are aware of it. So all of these things, you don't want to create trauma in your child's mind at that early age, because childhood trauma can really make it very difficult for adults to survive. Okay? The behavior is usually inappropriate. We don't understand why. And when you get into it, you realize this child has had so much to deal with as a child. So, and of course, we want to breastfeed our baby, don't we?
Oh, yes. Very important.
We want to breastfeed our baby because breast is still best. And so mothers need to have time off work. They need to have support. They need to have good nutrition on their own so that they can feed baby healthy milk, right? And we still are asking that babies be breastfed exclusively in the first 6 months. But we have to go back to work in 3 months. What do? We express. Hopefully you have a fridge in the house, you can put it in the freezer, you can warm it up and give to the baby. And even if the baby goes to daycare, there should be facilities for the baby to have its breast milk. If a mother doesn't work, hey, hooray, right? We must facilitate a mother who's just had a baby, being able to feed that baby appropriately so that that baby can grow, can develop good brains, muscles, not be fat. Because this is when we start to prevent the obesity that we see in childhood, that overweight, those fat, chubby children who can't escape the diseases that come with childhood obesity. Okay? It starts from birth and that early age of infancy with breastfeeding. And we know that sometimes babies who breastfeed look nice and chubby, but guess what? When they're 8 months and they start to crawl around and hold on everything and walk around, all that fat goes and have a lean, healthy baby, right? With a good mood. That is what we want, to have, that perfect child. But it's become a bit of a topic that we want. A lot of us are refusing. I'm going to say immunization given by vaccine. Immunization means that you become immune. Your body can prevent certain diseases that caused by viruses and other organisms, because you have introduced it to your body, and your body creates a state in which it acts. So introduce small amounts of this, whatever the thing is, and your body provides antibodies. Okay, so if you meet it again, the body already has those antibodies, and that has been in a state of immunity. We want to make sure that our children have the vaccines that are recommended by the World Health Organization. Starting with hepatitis B at birth, right? Starting with polio vaccine. Do we understand the impact of polio? We need to put some slides up, because we need to put slides on how the children had these lung machines, that they put them into these lung machines, how the children become so very deformed because they have paralysis, especially of the lower limb, and some people of the upper limbs, right? Simply because the parents refuse to give them a vaccine that can prevent that kind of very complicated outcome. So we want to make sure children have all their vaccines, so they can go to school. There's no reason to get mumps and measles, because mumps can make you infertile.
Yes,
the male, right?
yes. Mm-hmm.
Right? So that's one of the biggest challenges. Mumps can make you infertile. But it can also cause you to have brain infections, as can measles. And a lot of children die from measles. As simple as it seems. You see the spots in the mouth, the rash on the face, child becomes very ill, doesn't eat, high fever, which on its own can kill you, right? But a lot of children can get a brain infection from measles, as most of those childhood diseases. Okay? So we want to make sure that the children have all the vaccines. You want to make sure that your child has a place to run up and down and play. Those are things that create a healthy person. Run up and down up in the yard. There's no need, absolutely no need to be given a child, what do you call it? An iPad, that system, what you call it? You know what I mean, right?
Yeah,
an iPad
yes.
Right? There's absolutely no need. TV time must be limited. Stimulation for a baby must come from within the family. Play, talk, read, those things are how we're going to stimulate our children to keep certain balance. You can't just give him an instrument to hold. I see babies fighting their parents for their phones. Why? And parents adhering to the baby's demand, tail wagging the dog, and really making the child thinks he's correct for things that are not really good for him. The children's psychologists and the neurologists are saying that the babies are overstimulated and having challenges and become very dependent, almost like addicted, okay, to these instruments. So we have to make sure, because all that is going to prevent your child from having other addictions as he gets older, from having behavior problems as he gets older, because he's had this stability. And of course, you need to have some spiritual balance. Doesn't matter what you believe in, but there must be spiritual balance and moral normalcy in a family. Okay, so you need to have people who show a child how he must behave. And as a child goes older, he goes to preschool and he goes to primary school. The biggest problem we're having with our children in primary and even secondary school is what we feed our children. Right? So we're beginning to see our children becoming obese. From 3 and 4 and 5, they're over 30%, 35% over their weight for the age and the height. That's a problem. Because we also see that children who suffer obesity, who have problem with obesity, are at a greater risk for developing hypertension and diabetes very early in life. Okay, so we have to ensure that we can prevent that. That our children still go on and play and ride bicycle and swim and climb tree and run for mango, run in the bush and run up and down and be very active. We know that our children must be active, very active, for 60 minutes a day. I see parents still forging to drop their children inside the classroom. They park in front and they lift the child inside the class. Children don't get a chance to walk up and down. You can drop your child down and the teacher monitors the child walking to the gate, and parents giving permission, taking away the freedom of children to run up and down and play. Oh, you're going to bruise his knee, so what? Oh, I don't want a mark on his skin. Oh, I run up and down and I get bruised and I look, watch my foot out with galley. That is not what it is. Think about what you get. Have you watched children play? Play. Yep. And how they laugh, and how they breathe, and how they relax, and they're not stressed. Those are the gifts we have to give our children in the childhood age, little children and big children. We also have a responsibility as adults and in preventing the diseases that, especially those diseases that run in our family. We have a responsibility to feed our children properly. Where do we get over giving our children ramen and chicken and chips every day, the national dish? All that fat, all that saturated fat that causes our children to develop high cholesterol, that make them obese. On top of it, they're eating all that and they're not playing. We don't give them salad because we doesn't cook salad in my house, right? That's not what we have to do. We have to make sure that our children have a balanced diet. 50% of your plate must be something green or colored. And I don't mean pizza. Those things, I'm not saying not to give a child pizza, I'm saying those things are treats. Those things aren't and proper meals. And while we don't have it here in Grenada, in the bigger world, parents stop at McDonald's and Burger King to buy breakfast for the children. Where do you get off with that?
Yeah. Actually, as you mentioned that this morning, I came across. I was just scrolling on Facebook, and I saw someone posted a little video in front of a fast food establishment in St. George's. The place was not yet opened, but there was a line of people in front there waiting. I mean, businesses open at 8 or 9 in the morning, fast food places, and people are there at that time. And someone actually posted a video of that, and I smiled. I'm like, but wait a minute, you come home, it's amazing, you know.
So we introduce our children and tell them that is right.
Mm-hmm.
That is not right. We accept that when our children have sports at school, that X and Y and Z company with all the highly sugar-sweetened beverages and highly processed products, because that is not food, right? All the time there's some processed carbohydrates, some seasoning, some coloring, and we telling our children that is a snack. That is not a snack. That is not food. It doesn't have food. Has to have other products like minerals and vitamins and stuff. Those things have nothing, even if they tell you it's fortified. So we have to get off this thing about companies that sell whatever, and people be upset with it if you want. I think we have to advocate for children not having access to those kinds of stuff in their early life. I'm not saying not to give a child a little bit of soft drink now and then. That's a treat, okay? But every day, I saw a little boy this evening. I was driving home. I'm trying to remember where. The mother wasn't even paying in mind. He probably like 3 with a 20-ounce soda. And a soda that he shouldn't be having because it has caffeine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And wouldn't you enjoy it like everybody else? It's made for you to want more. It's made for you, and caffeine is addictive. So it's made for you to enjoy and to want more, right? Our children don't need to have sugar-sweetened beverages. I'm sorry. And every parent should ensure that the children have sufficient quantity of water to take to school, especially now that it's so hot.
But Doc, here's the thing. I think a lot of these behaviors are passed down, because when you see parents doing it, then it is passed on to the children. I mean, automatically, a parent, a mother or father who purchases a highly sweetened beverage in the home, enjoying it, they're going to give the child some. It's just natural.
No, they buy one for the child.
Well, yeah, I'm just saying that even if you give the child some over time, they develop the taste, so it's passed on. And so you start a cycle, a vicious cycle that never ends. Ends.
I wish parents would focus on what they buy in the supermarket, because we still have a lot of fruits out there that are there with which we can make drinks for our children without introducing extra sugar. Because part of the problem is the added sugar. There are juices in the supermarket that don't have any added juice. They make it from water and pulp of other juices, of other fruits that are healthy for the children. We're not doing that. And mothers and fathers, remember that you're not supposed to give your children drinks that are sugar-free, that have sweeteners. As a matter of fact, there's a decree from the World Health Organization that no child is to be given a drink that contains any food that contains artificial sweeteners, because of the possibility of developing cancer. We know that these products, it's been proven. Aspartame in particular which is used very commonly, does cause the development of cancers. It's carcinogenous, right? So the World Health Organization has said no child, because when we are talking about sugar-sweetened beverages and not giving our children sugar-sweetened beverages, everybody say, "Oh, we can give them sugar-free." No, you can't.
Well, Doc, let me just share something with you. So usually, so I have a subscription with Medical News Today. I use them a lot for little research. And earlier this week, I got one of their newsletters. So they usually publish whenever a recent study is out, they would publish it. And they sent something captioned, "Is it okay to eat mango if you're at risk of diabetes?" And the experts weigh in. And they did this.
I mean, an adult? An adult? An adult?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're saying here, so let me just share it with you, and this is based on the studies. All right? So it says a new study suggests that at least one high sugar tropical fruit, mangoes for example, may be more likely to help prevent type 2 diabetes than a low sugar snack, and that is what you're talking about here. Those snacks.
The truth is, you're not going to get a wash pan, a mango like we used to do in the past. Mm-hmm. In the past, when we would get up and walk to the garden and walk to church and exercise and play ring of roses and all of that. Okay, when we had a more active lifestyle, you can have a slice of a Julie mango. You can have one mango. Mm-hmm. So we tend to overindulge in everything we do. That is part of the problem.
Let me just quickly finish it up. So it says low sugar snacks designed to be convenient and tasty, however, may not be as nutritionally rich, may contain additives, and may thus be less likely to be healthy. For the study, and it was, who was funded by, they basically, they involved people aged 50 to 70 years. That's the group that was done. And the results showed that it was, better to use a mango than to use these.
Because the sugar in the fruit is metabolized differently from the sugar, the processed sugar in the snack, right? From the sugar that you get in the snack, those highly processed foods, that your sugar shoots up, right? That have a high glycemic index and can make your own sugar go out of kilt because your sugar goes up so high, especially if you're prone to diabetes. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, and those foods, those products that have artificial sweeteners. You taste the sweet, but you don't get the satisfaction of the glucose, the little bit of glucose. So you want more. It makes you more and more hungry, so you consume more than you really should. That's part of the challenge. Mm-hmm. All right. So there's some other things that, one of the biggest problems I think a lot of parents face is, what does my child eat when he goes to school? The child spends 8 hours in school, more or less. So that's a very important part of their life. Those 8 hours, they're interacting. You want them to run up and down and play at sometimes, and like I say, for an hour. You want them to, at least half an hour while they're in school. You want it to be PE, physical exercise, physical education. And I'm talking about physical education where the education is interactive, not where you're doing it as a CXC subject. So you go out and you play. And now we're talking about physical literacy, where people understand that they must be physically active in order to remain well. And that physical activity could include just running up and down without reason, playing hopscotch, moral, all those games, Chinese skip, all the rest of it, and skipping, right? Which is inexpensive, very inexpensive, affordable right there, okay? Being active that way, they burn a lot of what they eat. Yeah. Okay? They burn it out because they're full of muscle, they run up and down for half hour, they drink their water, and they go back to class, they don't sleep, they do better. Here what has been discovered. Children who can't skip, who don't skip, have challenges learning because they have coordination problems. Most of our children can't skip, don't know how to skip. So their coordination, yes, they can use their hand and type 100 words a minute, but their whole body coordination is down. So they walk and they fall down and they trip, and they don't even walk so far because, like I tell you, mommy wants to go up to the school door, up to the classroom door, and deposit them inside. They're careful, don't fall, right? and our children don't develop those physical skills, especially
those motor skills. Yes.
Right, where you can move. So that is one of the things. But the food. What do you give your children to eat at school? What do you put in a lunch pan? Snacks, maybe a sandwich, lot of macaroni and cheese. And you know how I feel about macaroni, okay? I'm not saying not eat macaroni, but it can be a meal. It can be a constant meal for children. No ramen. That's flour. That's bare flour. If you crush the ramen, you can make dumpling, put water in there. Why? Would you give your children dumpling to go to school every day? Macaroni and cheese. There's no cheese. That's a powder that's yellow with some mustard and salt and seasoning. There's no cheese in there. Even at school, right? Some of the schools said chicken and chips. Guess what? It's easy to go. There's no greens. Our children don't know how to eat vegetables. The families who have the habit try to keep it. And there's certain religious groups that really focus on balanced meals. But for the most part, we do not. What do we have then? We have children who start getting obese. And our numbers in Grenada are showing us that every year, the group of children that we check, or preschool kids, every year, a larger and larger group of preschool children are showing signs of obesity. Obesity, I say, is being 35% over what is acceptable for your age according to your height and your for your weight. Well, of your weight, for your age and your height. Okay? That's unfair to children because they don't know that is not supposed to happen. It's unfair to children that we insist that they have sugar-sweetened beverages. It's unfair to children that we do not give them the meals they require. And it's unfair to children that they end up being obese and face the social challenges because fatty children, there probably was one fatty boom boom in my class, but there are lots of children who are obese and who lack the dexterity and who become quite awkward and who become sidelined and bullied and all the rest. And that is not a healthy lifestyle.
There's
because bullying does enhance and does cause a lot of mental unwellness. So you have a child who's overweight, he is going to have challenges with how he manages his food, how his body metabolizes, takes in and breaks down the food and uses it for the nutritious part, especially if you're not giving him the nutrients that he requires. So you have this little fat boy, 13 years old, he can hardly walk, his knees start bowing, he has, and that's extreme, but still, but you see more and more obesity. You know what we're seeing more than that? We're seeing early onset of diabetes in old people. Old people diabetes in 13-year-olds who don't need insulin, but who need things like metformin, what we give to our granny.
Yeah.
And so if you start having diabetes and high elevated blood pressure and high cholesterol at that age, guess what? Your brain starts to have challenges, your eyes have challenges, your heart have challenges, your kidneys have challenges, your joints, your circulation in your foot, all of those things have challenges. It means that body is under a lot of stress, right? It means that young body is under a lot of stress and is not likely to survive to reach what is supposed to be the culmination of life after 70 years old. They can't because there's already too much chronic diseases, illnesses that are showing up and keeping them from being healthy. Okay? What's the other challenge we have with our children? And I want to look at adolescents. You know, recently we had an adolescent health policy written, and part of the thing to implement adolescent health policy has been the source of a lot of discussion, healthy discussion for the most part, right? Some people are not happy with it, but I think discussion is healthy in relation to the lowering the age of consent for children to visit the doctor, to be seen in a health facility. But there's a wider adolescent health policy, and that health policy aims to prevent all the things we're talking about. It speaks to how do we feed our young children. Do you know that we have a school nutrition policy? Do you know that? A school nutrition policy that should outline what our children should be eating at school. All our children. And all our children have similar needs, unless they have special needs for what they eat. All our children should be eating the similar stuff at school, simple but healthy stuff. Okay? Properly prepared, because I think the Ministry of Education and the Food and Nutrition Council have a responsibility to ensure that the quality of food that is prepared, right, is of good quality. But it must be nutritious, substantial, and good quality and good portions. Because that's the other thing. We like a lot of food, like big portions of food, and that makes us fat. Because what your body does not use for energy, your body will store. Okay? Especially a body that's working healthily at first. It will store. And we see this child getting fatter and fatter. We also know that obesity is one of the biggest risk factors for all diseases, including cancer.
Cancers, yeah.
And we've been talking about our young people coming up with cancer. Okay, before I go back to the adolescent, what else you think causes cancer? There's always that predisposition, the fact that you're likely because you have a gene or something in your family, right? But because you have the predisposition doesn't mean that you have it. You have to have it. Just as with high blood pressure, because all your generation have high blood pressure doesn't mean that you have to have it. If you can take measures to ensure that you don't develop high blood pressure at 25. Okay? Those are the things we want to put into place to make sure that our young population has an appropriate lifestyle so that they prevent that. They prevent chronic diseases, diabetes, hypertension, heart problems, liver problems, kidney problems, cancers. We've seen so many cancers in young people. Apart from the obesity, the other problem is alcohol. Okay? We consume too much alcoholic beverages. First of all, children under 18 for us, yes, are not supposed to have access to any alcoholic compound. Nothing. So if you give the child a piece of cake that have alcohol, you're in trouble. You should be in trouble. If you give your child sorry little rum in it, no. Okay? Not until you're 18. And you can't have your child and say, have a sip of a beer. Come boy, try this. No. Our children are not supposed to be consuming alcohol. There's a law that can be enforced, has not been as much as it needs to, right? That tells us that our children must be protected from consumption of alcohol, because we know that alcohol is one of the things that make us develop cancer. It's one of the recently in the last year has been confirmed to be a risk factor, right? For a high risk factor for cancers. For example, we see that young women who consume alcohol, and we drink a lot of rum. I've seen our young women drinking more alcohol content in their drinks because they drink rum with something. Whereas a guy may have a beer, our young women are drinking rum, or women are consuming hard liquor. But they show that young women in the UK who consume alcohol who had a high risk developing breast cancer age 27 and those kind of ages. Hence, we will have people dying before their time. Would you expect a 27-year-old to have breast cancer? No, because the earlier statistics show that breast cancer appears in women 45 to 55 years. Yeah. So a 27-year-old she doesn't even know how to look for it. Okay? We want to continue, in relation to adolescents, people from 9 to 19 years, 9 to 20 years, we want to make sure that they have a life that has physical activity throughout. So I tell people all the time, I went to university in Havana, and you couldn't graduate if you didn't do physical exercises. You had to be in a physical activity program, whether you play judo, boxing, whatever it is, athletics. It didn't matter, high jump, I don't know, whatever it is, you had to be involved in some physical. You had to. No, it's a class that you have to do it 2 hours. And a certain amount of 2 hours every week, and a certain amount of hours at the end of the year. You don't do it, and you do not graduate. It's as simple as that. and that's university. So I want to talk to parents in particular who give their children permission not to ask teacher that their children must, because they don't want them to sweat. They need to sweat. They need to be physically active. And above all, they need to be like their parents. Oh, they're active, smiling, running up and down and having fun. Our young people must also engage in some physical activity. Like I said, physical literacy, knowing that you need to be physical active, has to be the thought process that we're going to engage in our community, in our country, so that our children know that they must keep physically active. Okay? So we have all these predisposing factors. We drink alcohol too much. We eat bad food, so we get obese. And then some of us smoke.
Yep.
But not just smoking. I understand that there are parents who have not recognized that their children vaping, where a vaping mechanism is a little thing that heats up and you inhale, and there are some things that they think are innocuous. No, they're not benign, they're not easy, they're not safe. Okay? This hot air with these chemicals, lots of chemicals and whatever, it might taste like strawberry and pineapple and watermelon and whatever you think is nice, bubble gum, that your child inhales, introduces hot air with compounds, chemical compounds, into their lungs, and it might taste nice in their mouth, but guess what? It's damaging their lung tissue. So your lung tissue, you know what we call light when you buy meat, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know what is light? Godfrey?
Light when you
when you buy meat, when you go to the meat shop, that's soft, spongy. That's long.
Yes, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Try to imagine that if you had a bowl of that and you replaced it with a bowl of popped corn, all the surface that you needed for oxygen to diffuse rapidly and efficiently into your body disappears, because what you have is these big, lumpy areas of your lung that cannot function, that doesn't have enough surface for exchange of air, that is oxygen in, carbon dioxide out. So our children are going to have chronic obstructive lung disease very early in life. And if we follow the children there are a lot of children who have become advocates for the use of vape, right? Well, against the use of vape. And I'll tell you why vape was created. Who have become advocates against vape tell you do not start. Because you have children who are teenagers who need lung transplants, who are otherwise healthy, or who die, or who live on an oxygen tank like an old lady. So why was the vaping thing developed? The vaping thing was initially developed to deliver nicotine, which is in tobacco, which is the addictive component of tobacco, right? To deliver nicotine to people, and they will who are getting off smoking tobacco. So tobacco, apart from nicotine, has many other components that can cause cancer. But however, the nicotine is what is addictive. Nicotine is what people crave. The other things make you get cancer. So you get a vapor, right? And you inhale this quantity of nicotine. And what you're supposed to really do is decrease how much you're using it. Just like when you're using a patch, you're withdrawing slowly from it. So it's not something to substitute consumption, because it does destroy your lung tissue. Okay? What the tobacco companies have done is now, because they can't, there's so much restrictions on selling tobacco, they've introduced these nice vapes with the nice products, the supposedly benign, safe substances. And eventually the children will graduate to using nicotine made by the same tobacco companies, and who make the same money, and who put our children at risk, because they're going to buy tobacco, they're going to buy cigarettes eventually, right? Because they're going to get a nicotine and probably cheaper from the tobacco. That has been the trick on our population. So you have these people who smoke, right? And who smoke they start smoking early as they vaping, right? right? And they get accustomed to the habit of inhaling substances into their lungs. When nicotine comes around, they're going to get nicotine, and eventually they're going to get tobacco. And we know that tobacco kills 50% of its users every year. Tobacco kills 50% of the people that use it every year, whether you have cancers, a multiplicity of cancer. Every single cancer you can think about is prone to it, right? Whether you have lung disease, whether you have heart disease, whether you get strokes, whether you get worsened diabetes, circulatory problem, you name it. Why? Because the nicotine hardens your blood vessels and means that you can't get enough oxygen into your brain, you can't get enough oxygen anywhere in your body, especially like the lower limbs, and then you have all the challenges from smoking. So those are all the things. So what are we seeing? What are we seeing then? What will we see? We will see a younger population that has chronic disease, hypertension, diabetes, lung disease, everything. We see a younger population who cannot produce because they're sicker, right? We see a younger population of us. We weren't suspecting to have those diseases because we left a lot of those chronic diseases for an older population. Mm-hmm. We see a younger population who does not generally live a wholesome lifestyle. And so they drink, they consume a lot of alcohol, they smoke, they don't eat properly, especially people who are drinking don't really eat because you need energy from sugar, right? From the sugar products, carbohydrates, sugars and starches. But alcohol is a sugar. So when you're drinking, you don't get hungry. But when you drink, you don't get vitamins and all the rest of it. Sorry. So, can you see me?
Yes, very well.
Yes, sorry, I'm sorry, my phone ran. So we have to understand that we have to teach our young people, and that is why these adolescent health clinics are important. They're important to look at our adolescent population and say, here is what you're up against, right? Here is what your behaviors can cause. Think about it. We talk about adolescent sexual health. Adolescents are sexually active. They're that age where the body have a million hormones driving them crazy, right? And if we're not able to gauge them into healthy behaviors, they're going to engage in unhealthy behaviors. What are they going to get? They're going to get STDs, which they probably would not suspect, which will probably go to chronic levels, right, and cause damage, right? Tertiary syphilis can make you actually have dementia, okay? HIV, which is very prevalent in our population, and because of young people are drinking so much alcohol, they lose their inhibition, and body sleep with everybody else, you're at a greater risk for getting HIV, mm-hmm. right? Pregnancy. And I want to talk about pregnancy because it's very important. A young mother, and adolescent pregnancy happens. I mean, it happens to the best of us, to the worst of us, it happens. But a young woman, the younger you are, the greater the chances of having a miscarriage, the greater the chances of having a complicated pregnancy, and especially if you're very small, you have a small body, you're needing a C-section for delivery. But younger mothers have a greater propensity to developing high blood pressure in pregnancy. So let's say we have this young lady who is pregnant and she didn't tell anybody, so she hasn't gone to any clinic or anything, right? Because there's no adolescent clinic for her to go and telling us, here, I missed my period, I may be pregnant, and to get the care that she deserves, right? But she develops hypertension, high blood pressure in pregnancy, very common and more prevalent, more likely to happen in a younger population than it is in an adult who's pregnant. High blood pressure in pregnancy can kill you. High blood pressure in pregnancy can kill you. Okay? People have seizures, people have kidney failure. I have seen some severe outcomes for high blood pressure in pregnancy. And if our younger women or adolescent women are more prone, they need to be educated. They need to be asked to postpone sex. And if they're sexually active, they need to have a means of protecting themselves from getting pregnant. That's our reality. Nobody's sending children to have sex, but guess what? They are out there having sexual intercourse. Okay? And they're going to be afraid if something happens, because they know they're transgressing the home laws. They may be afraid to go and tell somebody, I think I have a problem. And so we need to have these spaces, these adolescent clinics, where our young people can go and feel they can talk about anything that they need there, because the people are there are trained to manage their situation, whether it's emotional or otherwise. The other thing has to do with our mental health. And we talked about early childhood trauma, right? But a lot of our children experience a lot of trauma. A lot of our young women experience a lot of problems. There's so many standards that are expected to be met. You must look a certain way. You must have that size bottom. Your breast must look like that. Your hair must do that. You must have, what do you call the thing? The valance on the face, right? Right? You must do so. There's so much pressure, right? And if you have picky head and your skin come and the thing you put on it, the gel can't hold it on, they will talk about you, right? And everybody wants to belong to a group, wants to belong to the accepted group. There's a lot of pressure. Our children who are abused physically at home and don't have anybody, or physically and sexually at home, or children who are neglected, right? Where mommy's never there, nowhere to cook. She had to take in the 4 little brother and sister because mommy gone and hang with her friend. She have a party Saturday night. I would like to watch TV, but I have to supervise 4 little brothers and sisters. They're rude. Mommy boyfriend come in and want to touch me and all the rest. That's a lot for young people to carry. They develop depression. They become non-functional. Okay? They cannot function. They can't study. They can't do stuff. And if you constantly live in a place where your mother always cussing and she thinks you're this and you're that, or your father thinks you're this and you're that, it is hard. Boys leaving home because they have a stepfather or father who doesn't know how to speak with them, who doesn't know how to love them, to embrace them, and to support them to be their best. So then we see the depression. Our young adolescent girls have a greater risk of depression. But guess who dies by suicide? The boys. Okay? Our boys are the ones who mostly die by suicide. So it's an ugly place to be as a young person. And we need to have a way to help our young people to navigate. They have to understand, they must be brought to a place where they feel they're safe and they're cared for, so that they don't develop the problems we see: early hypertension, early diabetes, early mental illness, smoking and drinking, because sometimes smoking and drinking are ways of coping with mental illness.
With some of the issues, yes, indeed.
Right? And smoking and drinking can cause you to get into trouble. Because when you drink, for example, right, you lose inhibition. What do some people do? They don't stab their friends and kill them. And when they get sober, they wonder what everybody's talking about. They don't remember, right? So our young men get into trouble. The other thing that happens is that our young men get into trouble with use of firearms, and so they're misled simply because the support system we were expected from home to take care of them does not exist. So they make wrong choices. What happens when you make wrong choices? You end up in jail for a certain time. Come out of jail, you don't have an education, you don't have anything, you're out there. How well are you going to take care of yourself?
And you come out with a stigma. People don't want to hire you because they think,
they don't want to hire you.
They don't want you around.
For rehabilitation.
Guards go up when they see you. I mean, everything.
Yeah, and people would not give you a job. This one, kill a man. No, I don't want him in my place. Right? Even if you may have had some chance to reconcile and gotten therapy and stuff while incarcerated.
It's a challenge.
It's a programs for education in the jail. But still, you come out, you in a class behind other people. You're behind your possibilities for living your best life. And so here we have a group of young people who have all the reasons not to be well. First of all, they were never taught to be well. Second of all, they weren't given opportunities to be well because of the lifestyle in the homes, and especially when there's little education, where parents can't make better choices. We have all these social determinants: poverty, the poor house, lack of this, lack of that, lack of that. And so you have this young population that is at risk. On top of it, if your parents don't take you to the doctor regularly, because one of the things that doesn't happen here, which should happen, every child should have at least one visit to the doctor, one well-person visit to the doctor before starting back school at the beginning of the year. Parents should take their children. And remember, I'm sure your mother used to deworming. What you get for deworming?
Cod liver oil. My grandmother is castor oil. Castor oil, sorry. Castor oil. It's funny tasting thing.
Doesn't digest. If I drink castor oil, it takes me 3 days for the castor oil to go to my stomach.
That doesn't. Doc, right, we just took a quick break, and we're gonna come back. Very, very short break. So stay with us, folks. We'll be back with you in just a moment.
At Oasis Pet and Garden, we bring you the best products at the best prices nationwide. Layers and broiler chicks. All animal feeds and supplies available, including supplements, waterers and feeders, and lots more. For the farmers, we have you covered, literally. Greenhouse plastic, premium quality ground cover, hydroponic systems, pesticides and fungicides, rain guns, weed whackers, and more. Visit the Oasis Pet and Garden today. Conveniently located along the Wester Hall Main Road, Wester Hall, St. David's, and Melville Street, St. George's. Now serving you at 2 locations. Visit us today.
Grenada, let's celebrate the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert on Sunday, November 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center with the best of Grenada along with the Black Prince and the Pink Panther. Our partners, Hubbard's, GBN, Grenada Paper Products, Grenada Distillers Limited, makers of Clacks Court, Grenada's #1 rum, Brenville Credit Union, Bryden and Miners, Agents 4, Johnny Walker, Smirnoff Vodka, and Campari, Renwick Thompson and Company Limited, Pierre Marcel, Hard On Plus, Gittins Healthcare, Dollar Savers Auto Parts, Rise and Shine Supermarket, Springs Food Mart, Excel Plaza, Clem Vision Eye Center, Chillaxing Cafe, Ansett Coating, Victory Bar, Blue Bubba's PA Rental and Events Supply, Chateau de la Motte, Grenada, Captain Harris Apartments, Gem Holiday, Beach Resorts, Dana's City Inn, Glen Egg, Spring Water, and the Grenada Trade Center. Sunday, November 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center, the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert. Please be seated by 4 p.m. Hubbard's Legends in Concert.
Welcome to Caracou, small in size, rich in spirit. As you step off the boat, you're greeted by smiling faces and warm island vibes. Your adventure begins here. Need a cozy place to stay? The Mermaid Beach Hotel has been a favorite for years. Waterfront views, clean comfort, and located in the town. In Bogles, the Roundhouse Cottages offers rustic charm with a touch of elegance. A peaceful hideaway surrounded by nature. Prefer something private? Dong Island Villas gives you space, sea breeze, and a home away from home feel. Wake up to the sound of waves and views that stretch for miles. We're ready to welcome you. When are you coming?
Mobility, a common theme woven into the very fabric of human history. From ancient wanderers to modern explorers, our instinct to move, to seek something greater, and to grow has always driven us forward. Imagine a journey into pathways of boundless opportunities and endless possibilities. A collective future where the vibrant rhythms of the Caribbean, rich culture, and welcoming community create unforgettable experiences. Beyond citizenship by investment, we believe in our collective investment of time, resources, and energy that fosters innovation, creates jobs, and enriches lives, driving the growth of an entire nation. The Investment Migration Agency Grenada boasts over a decade of exceptional service and remains committed to guiding you toward global mobility and economic freedom through investment. Your journey becomes our shared story of progress and prosperity. This is an invitation to be part of something greater, something enduring. Begin your journey at imagrenada.gd. IMA Grenada, unlock the possibilities.
Welcome back, everyone. It's the Doctor on Call, and of course, we're discussing, ways in which we can prevent premature death or early death, and just, discussing it. And it is so very important. And I really trust that we're paying attention to all of this because, sometimes we take things for granted and we only realize the seriousness of these things when we are actually in the situation. And we now have to look for remedial measures to deal with it. So let's pay attention and, let's try and at least, try to do something to keep us healthy. Ourselves and our children. Because as we established earlier, sometimes these habits start with the parent and then it is passed on to the children and then that vicious cycle begins and then we have problems and more problems. And, maybe sometime next week or later on, we can look at how these problems, how it has a domino effect and it just doesn't stay with us. But it impacts not just us, our friends, or brother, sister, neighbor, but the entire country. You might be surprised. Yeah, so we'd look at that down the line. So, Doc, here, we can continue. We have another 25 or so minutes. And within that time, folks, if you would like to ask any questions, you can do so. Our telephone number is 435-2041, or you can post your question on our Facebook page, GBN Live, or on our WhatsApp platform. That's 435-2041. And we'll be happy to provide, whatever information that you seek. Yeah? So do stay with us. Doc?
Thank you. I wanted to speak again about adolescent pregnancy. One of the challenges is that sometimes a young person has one baby and then she has 2 and 3 and 4. And in very quick succession. One of the challenges to that is that, apart from the fact that she's probably going to develop postpartum depression, it can happen because it's a lot to have to deal with, and the ostracization and the poverty that probably comes with that because she doesn't have the support, right? So you have another cycle of children who are going to have challenges because they're not going to have proper nutrition. What we have, I spoke to hypertension in pregnancy, right? But there's also diabetes in pregnancy, okay? Diabetes in pregnancy, which comes back after. And if a young woman has 4 and 5 children, she can actually, young women have success when her heart doesn't get a chance because her heart gets a little enlarged.
Yeah. Just hold it there a sec. We have a caller on the line.
Okay.
Doctor and call, good evening. Hello. Good evening, caller. Hello. Okay.
We lost it.
Yeah, we lost that call. So the number is 435-204. Yes, Doc.
So the young woman in particular, or any woman who has a lot of kids, right, runs the risk of having heart problems because the heart gets a little enlarged during pregnancy, right? Because they have to pass on more blood. They have to, more blood because the fetus wants its own circulation and stuff, and the mother does provide circulation for the fetus, right? Blood and stuff. So after pregnancy, everything goes back to normal size. But if you don't get a chance, you get pregnant soon after that, that heart is not yet healed.
Yeah,
So it stretches a little, and eventually you get into heart failure. And those are some of the challenges that you may see women having, not having, and of course, if you don't do antenatal care. If you go into your prenatal clinic or your antenatal clinic, at least a doctor should be looking for these things, okay? And it is that's why it's so important to go early.
Well.
And to get counseling about contraceptive, waiting. Because you have a baby doesn't mean you're free. You could have 10. You don't want to punish yourself.
So, Doc, quickly, would you say then it's a good idea for women who are pregnant to get to be involved in some levels of exercise as well?
Yes, and there are exercise programs to help everybody else. Or you can go and walk up and down.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught not to go into the ocean because of the pressure of the water can cause you to get into premature labor when you get into the, But you can walk up and down and you can dance. People who live way too accustomed, you can continue exercise. Let your doctor look at you. If your pregnancy is proceeding normally, you can exercise.
Excellent. Okay.
You can be active. Yes. So, of course, smoking in pregnancy is a no-no because it will damage our babies, and that puts that next generation at risk for having problems, okay? So, with one pregnancy, you want to make sure this pregnant woman is having a healthy baby and not putting that baby at risk, nor herself. So, where are we going to start in preventing these premature deaths by younger pop in a young portion? I think, like I said, it's a big old cycle. If we start at home, teaching our children to eat properly, to exercise, to be able to manage their moods and all the things, I think we'll have a relatively healthy young population if families eat correctly, right, and stuff. But I also believe, and if there's exercise, because exercise is one of the things that I think we pay the least attention to, right? And being physically active does prevent a lot of disease. But I think also we need to make use of the health system. People complain that we don't have no health system. Yes, we do. We have a health system that's based mostly in primary care, but because we don't use it, we all end up getting very sick and have to go up to secondary and tertiary care and overwhelm a system that is meant to solve problems that you can't control, because you actually commit problems that you can't control in larger than expected amounts. So, taking our children, like I said, to the clinic every year, get the eyes checked, the dentist check the teeth, you listen to the heart, you check the hemoglobin, you treat them for worms and whatever things, right? A lot of our children miss because we don't check the hearing and the visual things. And so they end up not learning as much. And we have a population that's uneducated. And that can be a risk factor for having disease in the future because they don't get information. So apart from treating our patients, teaching our children that you can go to the doctor, you can go to the dentist, he will check XYZ. Let's make sure if you're overweight that you fall back into your normal weight. Getting counsel as to what to eat, what not to eat. And apart from having good nutrition in schools and stuff, right? There's also the primary care level where we do screening. We expect diseases to come because we don't do all the things we have to do. Or they may come. And I can tell people, go and look. I think of screening as a curtain. You pull it and make sure there's nothing behind there. Okay? Screening for diabetes, hypertension, early. Doing pap smears. Examine your testicles in the case of young men, making sure there's not cancer of the testicles. Getting counseling on sexual behaviors. Smoking cessation, or being taught how we shouldn't smoke. Of course, we have things like health and family life education in school, which should be teaching a lot of these fundamentals. But you have to keep reminding people, okay? Go to the health center and get screened. Do your pap smear early. By 25, if you're sexually active, by 25, once you start having sex, you should go and get a pap smear within a year or two. Certainly by 25, you should have your first pap smear. Certainly by 25, a woman should start learning how to examine their breasts. Prostate cancer comes, for example, in family. You see a lot of families have prostate cancer. And we tend to screen, we screen at around 40. I screen my male patients a little lower. We talk about it and we screen. And prostate cancer screening has to do with doing it regularly. So because you do one prostate test and the normal is between 0 and 4, whatever units they use, because you did one in 2023 and it was normal, it doesn't stay like that.
Right.
You're supposed to do another one in 2024, 2025, and going on to see the trend, because you may have a 2.3 reading, which is less than 4. But guess what? That 2.3 is heading to 5 because you may have prostate cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And that's still young. You see younger men with prostate cancer, 40s, 50s, especially if you know there's a history in your family. Women getting their breast examined, if you have, and you can do tests, if you know you have a family who has a relative, especially close relative, first and second degree family, so like your mother, your father, your grandparents, your auntie, uncle, their children, get screened for them, go get your breast screened. And sometimes we think it's only like our mother's sisters and stuff. Your father's sisters having a history of breast cancer puts you also at risk for having breast cancer.
Right.
So you should go and screen for that. Okay? As you get older, you want to do a colonoscopy. I think 40 is good for a first colonoscopy because we've seen younger people with colon cancer. Right? It's funny, because when I was going to medical school, the people who had colon cancer were white men over 60. But I've been here, I've come, even the days when I was in medical school and we go to the hospital, I've seen young men, and where I worked otherwise, in their 30s and 40s with colon cancer and die from colon cancer. Because we follow in the epidemiology, how it manifests itself, the disease manifestation in a population that is not our population, in a population that doesn't eat like us, right? In a population that don't have the same lifestyle, in a population that probably smoking, but they have other protecting factors, right? So I advise our young men to consider it, especially if there's somebody in your family who has breast cancer, well, in the case of the women, and prostate cancer in the case of the men. Women go to your pap smears. It's an easy, simple procedure. One of the other things we have at our favor, we have 2 vaccines so far that will help us prevent cancers. One is a hepatitis B vaccine that's given at birth, and then you have one at 3 and one at 6 months, right? And then there's the HPV that has all this furore. But guess what? Speak to the people in Australia and speak to the New Zealanders, especially New Zealand. They don't have new cervical cancer because they vaccinated their girls between 9 and 12, right? And which is the best time for the best immune response. There's been all of this foolishness that people talk about vaccines. And we are here because of vaccines. I remember getting my polio vaccine like about 8 or 9 years old when the nurse come to my community center and said, come here. And she called all of us and we went in, some people with trepidation. And she said she's going to give us a vaccine. She's going to vaccinate us. And everybody started bawling. I just want to, and that was when they gave us the oral polio vaccine. Lump of sugar with a pink drop on it.
Yes, I remember that. Mm-hmm.
Okay? And if we can immunize ourselves, we can prevent the things that will prevent premature death. Because premature death also occurs in children. Remember that, right? It's from once you die before you're 70 years old, that's considered premature. We have been able to eliminate premature death in our children because of an active and efficient vaccination program. Yet I see people don't want to give their children vaccines because people who have a lot of money tell them don't give their children vaccine, that you're going to do them X, Y, and Z, and don't give them autism. How come we're not autistic? How come you and I are not autistic? I get all the vaccines that they had to give. My daughter had all her vaccines, and most of all my friends' children have had their vaccines. I don't see any autism in them. It's a pity that we've created so much fear and mistrust in the minds of people who don't quite understand. And I wish our population would go back and think.
And about the important things, about things that are important, and the things that we don't need, these are the things that they promote and encourage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is a shame, because the reason why we're here is because we had such an efficient vaccine program. A lot of us don't know what it is like. Okay? A lot of us don't know what it is like to have had polio in your environment, typhoid fever, Do you remember there's a typhoid fever outbreak in 72?
Yeah, I
lost friends in that, right? And we had to be. My father took us very quickly to the doctor to get our shots, because typhoid was not something that you gave routinely, but it has become one of the routine vaccines. Okay, because it can be very debilitating, and it can cause your children to die.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to appeal to families, to young people. When it comes to protecting your children, take the chance. Because I don't know how many of us know anybody who has had polio. I know a couple people, but that's because I'm older, and people who in my age group probably. So unless we are able to understand, to see it, we're probably not going to accept the vaccine. But the truth is, believe us, vaccines have us where we are today. Right? Definitely. And then there's the HPV vaccine that's going to prevent your girl child from developing cancer of the cervix. The human papilloma virus is probably the most common disease, that's sexually transmitted disease. Right? If your daughter is protected, and your son, because I think boys should also be protected, right? If they're vaccinated against human papillomavirus, they're not going to develop cancers of those soft tissues, the mouth, the anus, the vagina, the cervix and stuff. Okay, so that's two we have. Mm-hmm. That's one thing we have done pat, that my child is not going to get cancer of those areas, because I'm going to make sure he has. And that kind of extended, because if you do a pap smear, some people, while doing a pap smear, they do a DNA test for human papillomavirus. If you don't have human papillomavirus, you can get your HPV vaccine. Mm-hmm. If you don't have HPV, you don't have to do a pap smear now.
That's right.
Because the virus, that virus is what causes you is what you need to have in your system for a vaccine to for a person to have HPV. So if you don't have the virus, you don't need to have pap smears again, right? And of course, we go to work, right? I would like to see our unions, our trade unions, enhancing and doing more, encouraging our younger population to get screened for disease, to maintain wellness, to stay away from alcohol, develop programs to stop smoking, put exercise programs in the thing, ensure that the cafeteria has healthy foods. Everything must not be based on alcohol. Every friend does not have to have alcohol. Get nutritionists to come in and teach us how to do portion control, what to eat, how to control a salt thing. And that's the union has a very large population because guess it, by the time you're 60, 65, you stop work.
Yep. So
everybody who's in that premature age for death have in age where you can have premature death. Mostly under some unions. Most of us are unionized in big organizations. But if you teach one, the other one will share the information with a non-unionized person. But we have anniversary, and we really should have screening. We really should encourage. We should encourage that our workplaces have exercise room, have access to employee programs where you can go and have counseling, mental health counseling and all the rest. Cessations, like I said, stopping to smoke. Alcoholics Anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous should be a whole lot more prevalent, more widespread in Grenada, because we drink so much rum. Mm-hmm. And it's hard for people to stop drinking without a good support system, without a good medical system that can teach it, because stopping drinking cold turkey for some people can actually cause death, and they know that. It's a very difficult, a very, very hard experience. But we really should have the union should come in. Our schools must ensure that all the things that can create a healthy adolescent and adult must be taught to children from early. If a teacher tells your child, don't drink yellow soda, he will never drink yellow soda in life again. Miss say, right? Miss say we mustn't drink this. So we have to teach our teachers what to teach our children so that they remain well, right? use the screening programs. Often people have health fairs. A health fair is supposed to be an environment where you can go and screen for disease. Look for it. You can get your sugar checked, your blood pressure checked. Young people need to be doing that. The old people who go into the health fairs already know they have hypertension and diabetes. But go get your pap smear done. And then, of course, go get your breast examined. Go get a mammogram. This is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Women between 40 and 45, go get your mammogram. Or you can do an ultrasound if you're younger. Make sure you learn how to do your breast examination. Men, get your prostate checked. Young boys, learn to examine your testicle. Okay? We need to make sure that there's spaces. And of course, the government has a big responsibility to ensure that the primary care facilities are there so that people will want to go in there. They're friendly, they give good education, that the nurses and the doctors who are there know what they're talking about, and encourage people and enhance participation in healthy lifestyles.
Excellent.
You know, we drink a lot of rum. We drink too much rum, way too much rum, right? Carnival, we drink rum. Christian, we drink rum. Baptism, we drink rum.
We drink rum for everything.
And nothing, we drink rum. Just sit on the yard, you have to drink. We really have a problem with alcohol consumption and alcohol abuse in our community, because nobody knows, I'm going to have a drink tonight because my friends are visiting and stuff.
Yeah, a lot has to do with the perception, you know. And unless we break some of these kinds of myths and this kind of false...
Those cultural habits.
Yeah, this false perceptions that we have about some of our actions, we might be in a better place, definitely.
And the final thing I think I want to say, you know, if you develop any disease, even while you're young, 25, 30, 40, 45, you have to stay on your regime. If your doctor doesn't offer you what you think is care, find somebody else. There are hundreds of us here in Grenada. Go to someone else who you think would listen to you, who will be compassionate, who will be understanding, right? And try to make you well again. And I want to make a special appeal to our men who have not been seeking care. Even some of them, even after they've been diagnosed with diseases. When you're 45 years old, you're still supposed to have your 2 foot.
That is a problem.
Why are young men, why are men in early ages? Because 60 is still relatively young. You're not yet retired. Retirement age is going to go back to 65. Why is it that you don't have no foot? Why is it that you're already blind? These are all preventable things. If you get diagnosed early, you can manage your whatever condition, especially diabetes. If you have diabetes, you can't smoke and you can't drink. It's as simple as that. You cannot smoke and you cannot drink. You may choose to, but really and truly, it is not part of the prescription. A lot of us don't like to take medications. And we really would like patients not to have to take so much medications, but the other practices that you have to adhere to. You have to adhere to the diet and to the exercise, the lifestyle, right? That will take you back to a place where you should be. So at least, and I tell my patients, you have diabetes diagnosed today. I don't want to be giving you medications forever. The patients who I start without medications, they can't manage the diet alone until they get accustomed to put them on medication, because the objective is to be able to take them off medications because they've gotten back to a place where their bodies can function.
Actually control. Yes. Indeed,
you know, so we don't want people dying. We don't want people ill. And remember that health doesn't mean the absence of disease. You can have a disease, but you can be a healthy person. You can have diabetes and you can be healthy. You can have epilepsy and you can be healthy. And even diseases like epilepsy and lupus and stuff, people need to follow up, because if you don't get proper follow-up, you will get very ill. There are medications that help us to control those disorders. If you have epilepsy or fits, every time you get a seizure, you damage another part of your brain.
Yeah, let's try the telephone. The caller is trying again. Doctor and call, good evening. Good evening, caller.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yes, good evening.
Yes, I want to talk to this doctor that is speaking there.
Yes, go ahead. She's listening.
I appreciate... What's her name?
Dr. Sonia Nixon.
Sonia?
Yes.
If I know her, I could give her incentive for her talk. Dr. Sonia Nixon?
Yeah, her office is at the Bruce Street Mall in St. George's.
Where?
Bruce Street Mall. First floor, Doc?
Blue Street?
At the Bruce Street Mall.
Blue Street?
Yeah, Esplanade Mall, and the Esplanade Mall.
I don't know who you're talking about.
In St. George's.
Blue Street Mall.
Yes.
Mall. St. George's.
Yes, that's where she's located.
My daughter will tell me about that.
Yes, you can visit her.
No, could I speak now?
Yes, go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Sonia.
Yes, miss?
Good night to all. This doctor online is very explicit to everyone listening. Simple words, not big phrase that you cannot understand. Very educated doctor speaking to the public on radio. Keep it up, doctor. God bless her. Continue your good works for the people of Grenada, Carriacou, and Petit Martinique. I appreciate her explanation. Amen.
Thank you very much.
Amen. That's the best doctor I see that could talk in Grenada. I would like to know this lady to give her an incentive. I could tell you that, and I'm going to find out where her place is. Thank you.
So here's my...
Thank you, Paula.
God bless you, Dr. Sonia. God bless you.
Thank you.
Continue your good work.
All right.
So here what I want you to do, miss. The lady that just called. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I want you to talk to people about taking care of their health. I want you to share some of the information, and I want you to practice, as we usually ask people to practice the things you learn in this program within your family, in your workplace, even if it means that you guys have to get together and share lunch and show how to cook food, go for a walk after lunch together, whatever it is. You live in the same community. When you go to prayer meeting, walk around the church while you're praying, you're doing your rosary, whatever it is you're doing, right? Encourage women in your church to do an exercise program. Encourage young people, have conversations with them as to how to take care of their children. We have to support each other. We're not a wealthy country, so we can have a government that just gives money for that, gives money for that. We have to to teach one another and not criticize, but support each other, right? People make mistakes again, but you have to start them over. So thank you very much, and please share the information with the people in your community.
Right. Yes, indeed. Well, actually, Doc, that has taken us to the end. That's all the time we have. So you take a minute and just wrap before we close.
So I want us to get to a point where I'm taking control of my life. I want to make my life the best life that's possible. And in doing so, I also want to make my family life the best life that's possible. We're going to live till we're old people. Whatever mantra you want to give, we're going to live well, right? So we're going to look at how we manage our pregnancies, our children, the environment in which we put them, what they get at school, the exercise. Make the children and them run up and down. Make them squeal and get rid of all the stresses that they have. You hardly hear children running and laughing and and there's a thing where children scream that I love to hear because I know they're breathing, right? And they're getting rid of all the stresses that they would have experienced in the day or whenever. Support our young people, support our adolescents, encourage them to live healthy lifestyles. One of the things I forgot to speak about was the whole issue of our young men, the use of firearms, being involved in the wrong group, wrong social group. That can be not good for you. And driving recklessly. Young men die by accidents. Okay? Depression, accidents, and of course, violent deaths. Let us make sure that doesn't happen in our younger population. Let us all together as one country work to support each other to live longer. We're not going to look for where the fight is. Let us encourage, I want grandparents in particular to encourage mothers, younger mothers, and I want younger mothers who are listening to understand the importance of having effective vaccine programs. Else you're going to start having things like polio. Listen to me. If one polio virus drops in Grenada today, we are in trouble because we don't have enough vaccination. I'm telling you. Same with measles, okay? And those are severe diseases that our children can experience and die. ask your grandmother about her older relatives, how they died. She don't know them because half of them died when they were children because the vaccines weren't available to prevent preventive disorders. So I want that when we eat so we don't get diabetes and hypertension. I want that if we start screening early, go to the health center, check my sugar, nurse, check my pressure, right? I want to do my prostate exam, I want to check my breast. And the things that are very common that make us die. I want that when you start feeling unwell, that you go to the doctor early. Don't look at it, because if you watch it, you probably wouldn't live long enough to see what it is. Okay? I want us to go and screen early, look for breast cancer, especially the things that exist in our families. And when you find something, don't be afraid, because I understand the fear it causes when somebody has a disease, right? Especially something like cancer. But the earlier you diagnose, the greater the possibility of being able to live for a very long time, right? So don't be afraid, and we're not going to die young, because we're going to take our own lives into control, and we're going to make sure that we're going to come together, do what is necessary to ensure that we live to a happy and fruitful life. We come to a retirement age and we can still be doing things, walking, exercising. Okay? So thank you for listening. Yes. And there is still a lot of viruses that are going around and stuff. So please remember that you need to wear your mask. There's still some COVID. Don't cough into anybody's face. And young people, there's still a lot of HIV, AIDS. Please practice responsible sexual behavior. Okay? And of course, it's very hot. Please remember the older people. Once they start to behave irritably, trust me, they're dehydrated, right? Please boil your water. There have been areas in which water has not been coming regularly. Please make sure you boil your water for 15 minutes for drinking. And for making juice and things that you're going to put in the fridge to eat. If you're going to cook, of course, it's going to boil. But for drinking water, please make sure that you boil the water for at least 15 minutes. And make sure that the children, the little ones, and older people are properly hydrated. It's really very hot. Thank you, and have a good.
Thank you so very much indeed, Doc. Always such a pleasure. Thanks to all our listeners and viewers who stayed with us. Be sure, as Doc said, remember to put one thing into practice. Let's take control of ourselves, and let's all aim to live long, happy, fruitful lives. Thank you very much. Don't forget, we'll be back next Tuesday with another Doctor and Call. But before that, tomorrow evening, join us for Kaito Talk. And on Friday, Week Culture is back. So this Friday on Week Culture, we're talking about favorite children. So be sure to join us. Don't have a good night. All the best.